Back to the double leg. I'm one half of the show, Hey Jive Picks, the other half of the show, the parlay. Joining me in, we've got some UFC Vegas 68. Please be done with these Apex cards. I've had enough, but a lot of foreign fighters on this card. We got some title matches that you probably have not heard of. Road to the UFC ends here. How are we doing?
Good, man, dude. Like we were just talking, this card. First of all, I mean, if you aren't really into MMA and watching fighters from other countries or other regions of the world, you're not going to know many fighters on this card. But honestly, the matchmaking, like you said, Road to the UFC, the finale on that show. There's some really good fights on Saturday. I think we're going to see a lot of finishes, and I'm actually kind of excited to watch this thing and see some of these prospects the UFC is bringing in.
Yeah, on paper, I was looking at it and I'm like, this is a pretty weak card. But after watching a lot of film on these fighters, I'm pretty excited about it. And if you watch the Road to the UFC, you know these fighters come out to fight. I don't know what it is, but Korean fighters, Chinese fighters, all those Asian fighters, they come to scrap. Like, they don't give a fuck. Dude. They just balls to the walls, hands forward, face forward. They'll take one to give one in the boxing range. Anything. They're coming at you. If you're new here, please leave a like, subscription, a comment down below. This is the double leg, the apex for everything you need to know about the UFC. And if you're into the UFC, you place bets on the UFC like us. We got a Facebook group where we got well over 100 members. I think we just passed over 150 in there, and it's a great community in there. We give away in a contest. We run a contest every weekend, so we stack $20 every weekend. All you have to do is put in your plus 500 play for that week. If it hits, you win the pot. If nobody hits, it gets rolled over to the next week. We got $40 in the pot right now. Just started that last week. So if you want a free $40, go submit your pick in there. Get in the Facebook group. And last announcement here, we got the double leg premium just launched this week, and the UFC stats got sent out to the members last night. And I gave out a few of my plays that I have so far. We're only, this is what, Sunday. So we got a little bit of time until next Saturday. And I'm going to be adding a lot more to that card. So I'm sure your card's going to be pretty hefty as well. We got a lot of spots that we think we like. So make sure to get in that. It's $19.99 a month. Ton of value in there. All the description will be with everything in there. I won't go over that. But I can guarantee you for less than $1 a day, $19.99 a month, you're getting way more than what you're paying for. So other than that, anything you want to go over before we start on UFC Vegas 68?
I mean, we talked about those fights the UFC's been announcing over the last week. We got some huge fights coming up. We're going to have this card. We're going to have UFC 284 directly after in the following weekend. And then I think we said we say there's 8 weekends in a row of UFC fights. No more breaks for like 2 months.
Yep, it's going to be
I'm excited, man. Yeah, it's going to be great. I mean, these breaks are killing me. I hate Saturdays with no fights, and luckily this is the last time we'll have to deal with that for a while.
Yeah, and when it's 8 straight weeks, there's nothing more important than getting all the information that you can get.
Exactly.
Premium. And we will get started right with the main event here. Derrick Lewis, Saragih Spivak, which was postponed until now, and kind of gets thrown on this card that was supposed to be in South Korea and now moved to the Apex. So not headlined by anyone of the Asian persuasion, but the Black Beast going in there against Saragih Spivak, the Polar Bear. Derrick Lewis, not looking good for him as of late, but he fights the top of the heavyweight division. Saragih Spivak on a bit of a run there, ran into Tom Aspinall, and then a couple more wins over Greg Hardy and Augusto Sakai. Who you like in this one?
It's so hard to count out Derrick Lewis in every fight he's been, but I guess I should say that's the way I did feel about him like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's like you can never count out Derrick Lewis, but it's like something in the last couple of years with him has just made me feel like he's not as into fighting anymore. I mean, he's done it forever. He holds records for knockouts. He's made a ton of money. Something tells me we're getting towards the end of Derrick Lewis's career, and I wouldn't be surprised with another loss or another knockout loss that he would retire, because I mean he's 37 or 38. He's been in the sport a while. I think he's, at this point in his career after the UFC, he's going to have plenty of opportunities. He'll be financially stable. He'll be fine. So, I mean, what's the point in going out there and getting knocked out over and over and over again? Because if you look at his record, he's 1-3 in his last 4 fights, and all 3 of those were by KO or TKO. So if he takes another one here, or even a TKO, I don't know. I don't know how much longer he's got in the sport. But on the other hand, he could definitely find a win here against Spivak. I don't know, with the wrestling pedigree of Spivak and that pressure, that's the style of fight that, Derrick Lewis doesn't handle well. Somebody who comes forward, somebody who puts the pressure on him. We've seen it in the last 3 or 4 fights. He kind of folds when he gets pressured like that.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with you on that. The thing is, you just can't count him out. I mean, he can. He's the one-hitter quitter, the knockout king. Low volume, though, and he, as of late, man, he just hasn't really looked like he's ready to pull that trigger. In the Tai Tuivasa fight, he did have Tai hurt. I will give him that. He had Tai on the ropes, but Tai had the chin, and since then, that chin has not looked so great. But yeah, not a lot of success for Derrick Lewis as of late. Since that Cyril Gane fight, he kind of looks like a shell of himself. He knocked out Chris Daukaus, but right now that's not looking like the biggest accomplishment. I believe Kyle Daukaus just got cut from the UFC, so not looking good for the Daukaus brothers. But then the loss to Tai Tuivasa and the loss to Sergey Pavlovich. So he's 0-1 against the Sergey. I don't know that I can pick him here against Sergey Spivak. Honestly, the line seems about right to me. Plus money on Derrick Lewis is always enticing. But Sergey Spivak has made a lot of improvements over the last, few years, few months. In his striking, in his stand-up. His performance against Augusto Sakai, that jab looked really strong, really stiff jab. Shot it out straight, no looping shots or anything like that. So showed really good cardio in that one too. I mean, he for a heavyweight wrestler base, he's got good cardio. And Derrick Lewis, I don't think that's something that he wants to deal with in there. So, Spivak gets him to the ground. I don't see Derrick Lewis really putting up much of a fight and really trying to get back up to his feet at this age. So, yeah, I'm gonna go with Spivak in this one.
Here's what I will say. The one thing I will say is, I don't know if you've seen the photo circulating of Derrick Lewis running and, working on cardio. He looks slim. Yeah. I bet he looks like he's 230 compared to, he used to be 260, 265. So that's going to be interesting, I guess. We'll see if that helps him or not. I tend to think it doesn't help him against a guy like Spivak, who's strong and who's going to try to drag you down to the ground. I think you want that extra weight and power in there. But, I mean, it kind of, if you look at both guys' records, Derrick Lewis has lost to Gane, Tai Tuivasa, Sergey Pavlovich, and on the other side, Spivak has beaten Augusto Sakai, who I think has been knocked out 3 or 4 times in a row now. Right. Greg Hardy, not in the UFC. Alexei Oleinik, 44 years old. And Jared Vandera, who can't buy a win either right now. And then he lost to Tom Aspinall. So, it's like Derrick Lewis is losing to the best of the best, and Sergey Spivak is beating guys that aren't that good. So It's like it's kind of going to meet in the middle, and we're really going to see, I guess, what Sergey Spivak is made of, I guess, a little bit, if he can take a big power shot. But, just looking at the stats, looking at the styles, it should just be Spivak taking this thing to the ground, holding them there, and letting the ground and pound do its work until he finds a TKO, in my opinion.
Yeah, his wins are really not impressive if you look at the level of competition for Spivak, but he is 28 years old, so I would expect him to keep making improvements in his game moving forward. And Derrick Lewis, the product already. I mean, he's not going to throw anything that you haven't seen at him. So I'm curious to see how he looks against, a devastating knockout artist like Derrick Lewis. In the fighters he's fought haven't really been that. Tom Aspinall KO'd him, but he took that fight on short notice, and that was before Tom Aspinall was like, a top 5 heavyweight. So yeah, give me Spivak in that one. And probably about good. Like, it's probably a good price. Maybe a little hefty on Spivak, but we will move on to the co-main. Dawoon Jung and Devin Clark. Daun Jung coming off the loss, KO loss to Dustin Jacoby, Devin Clark, the loss to Azamat Murzakanov. So both guys coming off knockout losses. Daun Jung, the favorite in this one, 29 years old. Devin Clark, going to be a bit undersized, 4 inches in height and 3.5 inches in reach. Are you giving the undersized man a shot here?
I can't. I've gone back and watched the film, and Devin Clark against some of these guys, have good striking. He looks very uncomfortable. I mean, he just looks like he's, not near as athletic as these other guys. I know, Murzakanov, who's 11-0 when they fought, he's a beast. I mean, he's a guy that I figured would beat Devin Clark pretty handily. But I mean, against guys like Jan Kudatalave, lost to Anthony Smith through submission, and just hasn't really looked good in many moments at all in the past fights he's been in. Whereas, his opponent, Jung's going to be the better boxer by a long shot in this one, in my opinion. He did get knocked out by Dustin Jacoby in his last fight, but that fight could have easily gone the opposite way as well. And he's going to be, quite a bit bigger, longer, more technical, can fight on the outside, the inside, going to be stronger. So I don't know, man. I've never been able to get behind Devin Clark, and I don't think I'm going to start this Saturday.
Yeah, I feel you on that one. Devin Clark, man, I don't know. He's just kind of a weird body for 205. I mean, he's just super jacked, muscular dude. He's fought in that heavyweight before against Will Knight and got a win there. But for 205 at 6 feet, 75 inch reach, like for his style, he kind of has this karate stance and has that lead karate kick that he likes to go to the body and to the head with. It just doesn't really work with his frame. And he has had success wrestling dudes, and he doesn't always go to it. That's the thing. And he's not a great wrestler. He's not a great grappler. He's more just like cage control, clinching you, and using his strength in those scenarios. So in this, for Daun Jung, he's a stand tall guy, and he wants to swing with you. He kind of walks you down, stays in your face. So I don't think that's going to bode well with Clark unless he just goes for that stalling cage control type fight and just kind of win rounds by control time. I don't see that happening because Daun Jung is not much bigger, but he's just a bigger dude. And I don't think Devin Clark's going to be able to handle that kind of size. So that leads me to take Daun Jung. 11 KOs on his record. He does have a pretty good ground game. So if Clark gets it to the ground, I could see him doing something off that, getting a reverse, landing some ground and pound, all that good stuff. And he's coming off a loss, so he's going to be hungry. And this fight was supposed to be in South Korea. So maybe he's was looking forward to it, and he wants to put a stamp on it. It's going to be, I don't think I announced that, but the prelims start at 10 p.m. Eastern time, and the main card starts at 1 a.m. Eastern time. So it's going to be around the same time that it would be if it was in South Korea. So all his family back home will be able to watch at a normal time. And all the fans will be as well. So,
the last thing I could say about this fight, really looking at the odds on BetOpenly right now, Jung Daun is going to be minus 212. It looks like Devin Clark plus 212, and then you take that number, and I look at the stats, and I'm surprised that Jung is not a bigger favorite. I mean, at the end of the day, Jung has a higher takedown average than Clark. Clark's only got a 35% takedown average or accuracy. Yeah. So, I mean, he has to shoot a lot of takedowns to even get one. And then on the flip side, Jung has an 88% takedown defense. So I just don't see Clark being able to take him down either. And, based on the stats and on paper, it looks like Jung is literally better in every aspect of mixed martial arts. I don't see him getting the upset. And minus 212, I thought it'd be a lot bigger. This could be a little parlay piece. If I'm being honest, I wouldn't mind putting this in a parlay.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind it either. I should absolutely get the win. But we'll move on to the heavyweight fight between Marcin Tybura and Blagoy Ivanov. The boy Blagoy. The man that's never been knocked out. and has survived a stabbing. So you just really can't hurt this man. Tybura coming off the big underdog win to Alexander Romanov. Blagoy coming off the win over Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Both fighters coming off a win. Blagoy is going to be the slight dog in this one. If we're looking at BetOpenly, Blagoy at the dog price is plus 135. Marcin Tybura minus 135. Who are you liking this one?
It's one of those things that after watching Tybura beat Alexander Romanov, I thought, that's super impressive because Romanov was 16-0. He was running through everybody, just mauling everybody. Found the win, kind of got Romanov to gas out there. And Tybura is kind of underrated in all aspects of mixed martial arts. He's good on the ground. He's good at the stand up. Jiu-jitsu he's got. So it's hard to pick against him. But he's just also one of those guys. You look at his record and he's beat all the guys that he should. I guess he's not really fighting the highest of high levels right now. Yeah. But he's also has some bad losses on his record, especially back 3-4 years ago. So it's almost he's fought so much in the UFC, but you still each time out don't know what you're going to get with him. At least that's kind of what I've caught on to. And on the flip side, Ivanov's probably the toughest guy, maybe one of the toughest guys in the division. Like you said, he's never been knocked out, and he's taken some big shots. He's 19-4. He's got enough experience to hang with anybody. This is kind of, for me, I want to say dog or pass, but the only thing that scares me is Ivanov has taken bad losses. Like I said, to Augusto Sakai, even lost to Derrick Lewis, which, anybody can get knocked out by Derrick Lewis. But yeah, for this one, I don't think I can get behind any money line play here. If I had to say somebody who's going to win the fight, I'd say Tybura because he's got more weapons. But something's just telling me that Ivanov, that toughness, he's going to stay in there. He's going to be there the whole fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he finds a big shot.
Yeah, Tybura coming off the better win, obviously, against a better opponent. But I went back and watched that fight, man. I think Tybura won basically just because he held on in the first round. Romanov gave everything he had in that first round, gassed out, and then the next 2 rounds was just way too tired to do anything, and Tybura was just kind of able to steal those rounds. He didn't really do too much offensively in those rounds, but to the judges, and rightfully so, he won the rounds because Romanov was just gassing, and his shooting takedowns was just terrible. Tybura saw him from a mile away, and he was just able to, kind of pick at him on the feet and steal the rounds. So Tybura's good all around. I don't think he's necessarily good at one particular thing, but he's going to be capable wherever the fight goes. I don't really believe in his cardio either. Watch a couple more of his fights. He kind of fades in the second and third round, depending on the pace. But just in that Romanov fight, he was able to capitalize because he hadn't exerted near the amount in the first round. For Ivanov, obviously durable, southpaw. So not sure if that's going to be an advantage for him there. But all around, these are kind of two similar fighters. Kind of good all around, but they not really good at one specific thing. I could see this fight going the distance for a heavyweight fight. That's should never happen. Should really never happen in a heavyweight fight. But I could see it happening in this one. Blagoy is going to look for that cage control. It's going to chip away at the body, at the head. Not going to throw anything too hard. So, man, what is the over-under in this fight on BetOpenly? 2.5. Okay. Yeah, the over 2.5 is minus 211. So I'm not spitting anything too special there.
That might be the first time I've ever seen 2.5 at minus 200 for a heavyweight fight.
Yeah, man.
It's crazy.
It's just crazy that that's a thing. Maybe they're just respecting Blagoy's durability to that point. But Blagoy not an avid finisher himself, so that's probably fair. His last 5 fights have gone to decision.
Yeah.
Tybura, decision, KO, decision. So, yeah, that's probably fair. I don't know, maybe there's value on that under then because, they're heavyweights. And statistically, an under plus 211 on a heavyweight, It's kind of juicy. But yeah, as far as the side, it's like, who knows, man. If you're gonna take the money line, I'd probably go dog or pass. But at this point, for the sake of the show, I guess I'll take Ivanov. Not confident on either pick though. Move on to the return of the Korean Superboy. It's been 3 years for him? Damn near, 3 years since his last fight against Charles Jourdain. He is on a 3-fight losing streak. So he hasn't won a fight in 6 years and 6 months. He had to do his time with the military, I believe. That's why he's been away. But Kyle Nelson, not a lot of wins for him either. So two losses, and then the win to Polo Reyes, 2 more losses in his last 5. This one, I really want to fade Duho Choi in this spot, but I don't know that I can because Kyle Nelson's really not showing me much to be confident in him. He is the dog. Because, I mean, are you really going to lay minus 200? On BetOpenly, it's minus 175, but most books are minus 200 for Duho Choi, who hasn't won a fight in 6 years. You got to have some balls to do that. And see what he looks like at weigh-ins and see where he's at and everything like that. Who the hell knows what he looks like 3 years later? Maybe he's made massive improvements. But he's all action. He's literally all action, super hittable. He'll take one to give one. 11 KOs on his record. For Kyle Nelson, he's kind of a stiff, a little bit slower. I think Duho Choi is going to have a big speed advantage in this one. Nelson's probably going to look to clinch. Leg kicks, probably slow the fight down. That's probably what I would assume he goes for in this one. Not a ton of finishing ability that I saw on film for Kyle Nelson. But he does have some finishes, 5 knockouts, 4 subs. He's been knocked out twice. So, man, I'm probably staying away from this one as far as betting goes. I'll take Duho Choi for the sake of the pick. But you got anything that you're confident in this one?
I think the under is a good play. I really do. And that's, you watch their fights. Duho Choi can get a little bit wild. And, we've seen in the past that his paid off a few times, years ago, and other times he's gotten knocked out. So, but if you look at the significant strikes both of these guys absorb, Duho Choi absorbs over 6.3 significant strikes per minute, and then Kyle Nelson absorbs 5.39. So these guys absorb a ton of significant strikes. And then on the, if you look at their wins and losses, both guys have been knocked out. I think Kyle Nelson's been submitted.
It's been submitted once, yeah. Once.
So, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like we're going to get a finish in this one. Both guys are hittable. Both guys' striking defense isn't phenomenal. The output's not terrible on Duho Choi, over 5 significant strikes landed per minute too. So he throws a lot and he gets hit a lot. Kyle Nelson, when he did find his last win, which was against that Marco Polo Reyes, dude, those shots he hit him with were really nice. And they were strong too. I mean, he knocked him out. This would have been in 2019, so it's been a while in round 1. But the combination he hit him with was slick and it was powerful. So I can't get behind, like you said, Duho Choi, who's been off 6 years, 3-fight losing streak, and he's going to come back as a minus 175 favorite. Like, that's a little deceiving to me. I don't know how they came up with that. Maybe they're just that unimpressed with Kyle Nelson. But at the end of the day, I think someone gets finished here, whether it's Duho Choi, the ring rust, the not being in octagon shape, not being there for 6 years. He gets knocked out, or he comes in there with a vengeance and puts it on Kyle Nelson and gets him out of there quick. But I do like that under 2.5 rounds.
Yeah, Duho Choi's been knocked out in his past 2 fights, and then he had that just absolute banger with Cub Swanson. Took a lot of damage in that one as well. So, I mean, he's had 3 years to recoup his chin, so maybe that's a little bit better. But, yeah, I mean, that price, you don't know what he's going to give you. And coming off the knockouts, like, who knows where that chin is, even with 3 years off to recover from it. So,
and I heard somebody say, like, well, he lost to Jeremy Stephens. Jeremy Stephens hasn't won in, but that was 2018 Jeremy Stephens, who was knocking people out and who was, still a savage. So no knock on him for that loss, and then he lost to Charles Jourdain. So, but yeah, I think someone's getting finished in this one for sure.
Looking forward to seeing it,
Me
nonetheless. Looking forward to seeing this one too. Yusaku Kinoshita versus Adam Fugitt. Kinoshita with the KO win on Dana White Contender Series, going to be making his debut here. The Japanese fighter, 22 years old. Adam Fugitt, the loss in his debut to Michael Morales. Can't knock him for that one. 34 years old, though, so 12 years older than Yusaku Kinoshita. Slightly taller. He's going to have a bit of a reach advantage here, but Kinoshita dealt with that on the Dana White Contender Series. So nothing new for him there. Who are you liking this one?
I do like Kinoshita because, I mean, both these guys are high output. They both throw over 5.5 significant strikes per minute. But dude, just watching Kinoshita on the Contender Series and past fights too, that slip and rip he had, that counter shot was, I called it the best counter shot we saw in Contender Series or even in the UFC that year. I mean, that was just perfectly placed, perfectly timed. And I think he really is going to have a pretty decent speed advantage too. The only thing that would concern me is if, this thing went to the ground. We haven't really seen Kinoshita on the ground a lot. Fugitt's not going to go out there and, necessarily sub him real quick or even get a submission, but he does go for a couple takedowns here and there. But I think this thing's going to be fast paced. And from what I've seen, I don't know how you can count out in a stand-up fight, at least at this level. I don't think Kinoshita loses. He looked really good in the Contender Series. I think he continues it here, gets a win.
Yeah, the kid is a smooth striker on the field. He hasn't technically he does have a loss on his record, but that loss was for a DQ for grabbing the fence after he's slamming on a dude's head with his foot. So somewhat a undefeated fighter in the eyes of who really won the fight. But I mean, southpaw versus southpaw, and Adam Fugitt loves to throw that rear kick, his left kick to the body, to the head. He didn't throw it a lot to the legs, but I would assume southpaw versus southpaw, both fighters are going to be ripping leg kicks to that lead leg. Both of them like to do it, so I would look to see who is more durable as far as the calf down or the top of the knee down, because they're going to be ripping them. I can guarantee that. Adam Fugitt, 4 knockouts, been knocked out twice, knocked out in his debut. Kinoshita, 4 knockouts, 2 subs. So he's gotten a finish in every win. I would look to see what Kinoshita by KO would be. I would assume he gets it done inside the distance. I like Kinoshita. I don't necessarily want to disrespect Adam Fugitt here. Plus 210 is not terrible value, but on against a debuting fighter. But he didn't really impress me in much on the feet. He really just spams that rear leg kick to the head, to the body. But against the southpaw, he's going to have to throw it to the leg. He's not going to be throwing it. He could throw it to the body, but it's just not going to work as much towards the back of the body. So I like Kinoshita in this one. And for Fugitt, if I'm Fugitt, I'm probably looking to take him down. I'm not going to stand and strike against Yusaku Kinoshita, especially after watching him on film. Move on to the lightweight title of the road to the UFC. Undefeated Anshul Jubli versus Jeka Saragih, who is on a bit of a win streak here. Pretty even in the odds in this one. Both fighters 28 years old. I got to say, I think this is going to be a banger. Like low key. This is a fight that's flying under the radar. Anshul Jubli, watching him in the road to the UFC, the guy's down to scrap. And I think Saragih just has a little bit more finishing ability that gives him the edge, in my opinion. 8 KOs for Saragih, 4 subs. He's been subbed twice. I don't see Jubli taking it to the ground at all. It's probably going to be a stand and trade battle. Saragih could take it to the ground if he wants to, but Jubli really hasn't shown much of a want or a urgency to take it to the ground. He's super heavy on the front foot. Jubli is. So being heavy on that front foot, you're gonna get hit more. And I think Saragih, when Jubli throws and he's heavy on that front foot, Saragih's gonna be able to throw in combination and land a little bit more because Jubli's just willing to trade. He'll take one to give one, and Saragih a little bit more aggressive in that way, a little bit more power. So I like Saragih in this one. What about you?
I'm on the exact same side. And, for two fighters that you don't see fighting at the highest level very often, if you go back and watch film, it's kind of hard to, get a feel on how good some of their opponents have been over the last few years. And, it's a pick 'em fight. So that kind of tells me that Vegas isn't exactly sure either what the hell is going to happen in this one. Two solid fighters, though. If you go look at them, both, at least can get to this level. I think both can compete at the UFC. Whether one of them takes it far or not, that's to be determined. But Jekka, 12 wins by finish out of his 13 total professional wins. I love that finish rate. I love a guy who goes in there and when he's winning fights, it's either by submission or KO. 8 KOs, 4 submissions, kind of tells you he can fight wherever this thing goes. And then Jubli, obviously a solid fighter, but I just think he could fall behind in this one as far as the volume goes, as far as the if he starts winning the fight, then Jekka is going to have the ability to take it down if he needs to, and overall just, has more tools and ways to win this fight. So at Pick'em, I like that a lot. Bet openly, plus 100 on each side. I'm going to take Jekka in this one.
Yeah, if you like that under 2.5, minus 110 on betopenly.com. The link will be in the description down below for the best fight odds. That's where you got to go. Yi, I think that's how you say it, and Yeong Lee in this one. This is going to be a banger too, man. Both fighters, 2 wins, obviously in the road to the UFC. Their past 2 wins. Yeong Lee, he was off for 3 years, did his time, I believe, for South Korea, came back, looked really good. 2 really quick finishes in the first round of both of those fights. I'm looking forward to this one. Who you like?
And this one, it's tough because, watching their previous fights, I tend to lean Yi. I'm going to mess some of these names up. Jung Yi. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeong Lee.
Yeong Lee.
Korean Tiger.
He's kind of the Korean Tiger. Kind of the flashier fighter. Has a lot of first-round finishes, too. So I'm going to be interested to see against kind of a grappler and his opponent. If this thing gets past the first round, what happens? Does he have a gas tank? What if he tries to finish the fight in the first round because that's what he's used to getting? Wastes all that gas, and Yi, somehow sticks in there long enough to find himself in a good position on the ground and get a finish. So if I had to lean for a pick, I do think it'd be Yeong Lee, but I would not be surprised at this level if you see Yi find some kind of submission or some kind of finish if the fight goes later on. So I'd say here's what I like in this one. If this thing gets past the first round and Yeong Lee is the sizable favorite, I'd hammer Yi as an underdog here and just hope that the going into the later rounds that Yeong Lee's not experienced with pays off or I guess bites him in the ass, and you can somehow get a finish out of Yi and cash a big underdog ticket.
Yeah, both fighters super aggressive, and that you could tell that by the over/under set at 1.5, minus 110 on the over, plus 110 on the under. Yi, pretty decent wrestler as well. I mean, both guys are pretty good all around. They look to strike a little bit more. Yi a little bit more inclined to go for the takedowns. 10 subs for Yi, 6 KOs. Been subbed once. He's been knocked out once as well. For Yeong Lee, since he's come back after his 3 years off, as soon as the fight starts, he takes that center really quick, and he just wants to throw. He wants to get the fight done as quick as possible, and that kind of leaves him open in some scenarios. But he throws hard, and he has good submission skills as well. 4 KOs, 4 subs, I believe, and this one's going to be fireworks, but at the price, minus 230 for Yeong Lee, I don't know that I can get behind it, to be honest. Maybe I would look for like Yeong Lee in the first round prop, and then play it live after that. He could get sparked in the first round and you just lose. But yeah, like you said, it's going to be Yeong Lee's fight to take until he lets it go. And then it could be Jia Yi taking over and winning those last couple rounds or getting a finish as the fight goes on. Both fighters similar in age. So both fighters improving and not a finished product just yet. So for the pick, I'll take Yeong Lee. But yeah, I probably wouldn't play him on the money line at that price.
Yeah, it's tough too when you haven't seen, a lot of these guys at the UFC level. I mean, it can be tough to get a read on some of these fights. But like I said, man, I think we're gonna get a lot of finishes on Saturday.
Yeah. Speaking of finishes, Rinya Nakamura, undefeated fighter out of Japan. Toshiomi Kazama, a 10-2 fighter out of Japan. Bit of a big dog here for Kazama. Loss on whatever that is. And then a decision win in the road to the UFC. Nakamura, a win by KO on road to the UFC, and a win by key lock submission. That was really slick submission there. Rinya Nakamura looks like a killer on film. I will tell you that. Watching this guy, he's aggressive southpaw, shoots doubles like his life depends on it, and he's strong as hell. For a 135er, he can take you to the ground. He's got a really decorated wrestling career, I believe, and 4 KOs on his record. He looks to get the fight to the ground, whether he subs you on the ground or just ground and pounds you out of there. That's where he wants to take it. Kazama looks to clinch and grapple, and I didn't think he was very strong on the ground. Watching him wrestle in the road to the UFC fight. So I'm pretty confident in Nakamura. The odds are obviously confident as well. So that's nothing groundbreaking there. Minus 382 on BetOpenly for Nakamura. I would look to see what the price is for him inside the distance or him. This one's tricky because he could sub, he could KO ground and pound, but inside the distance is probably what I'll go for in this one. You thinking anything else on Kazama?
No, not really. I think Nakamura's, the wrestling pedigree, I think, is just going to be way too much, and it's going to be on a whole another level. And I think we're going to see that, the strength advantage. Because you said it. He looks strong, and you can tell by the way he fights. That when he does grapple and wrestle, he's always physically stronger than guys at 135. And I think we're going to see that big time here. And I think the price is just about right. He's a pretty sizable favorite. I guess you never know at this level, but not a line I would touch on the money line. But I do like inside the distance in this fight too for either guy. The under 2.5 is minus 160 on BetOpenly. I would think with all the finishes each guy has, I would think that's a pretty safe play in my opinion. Yeah. Under 2.5, minus 160. If you don't like that price or you're not, confident on that price, throw it in a parlay. Minus 160 does seem a little bit high, but I do think this thing gets finished in the first couple of rounds for sure.
Agreed. Move on to the first title fight of the night in the flyweight division. Han Sung Park and Sang-gok Choi. Hopefully I didn't butcher that, but Park going to be the favorite in this one. Submission win in his last time out. KO win in his debut to the road to the UFC. Sang-gok Choi, a win by decision last time out and a win by decision in his debut in the road to the UFC. Fights for a Korean Zombie team, so he's going to have Korean Zombie in his corner, I would assume. Does that get him the win here as the dog?
I don't know. What are the odds at right now? You might have just listed them off, but I was looking for them at the same time. There's so many young. There we go. Young Sung Park minus 175.
Yep.
I do like it. If you look at his record and you look at his past fights, the guy can finish the fight from striking. He can finish it through submission. If he gets it on the ground, he's good on the ground. Obviously, his striking, he's a little flashy. He's got flying knee knockouts. He trains in a good camp with guys like the Korean Zombie. His training partners are going to be good. That's like kind of the pinnacle at that side of the world. If you're training with the Korean Zombie, a guy who's an absolute legend, Hall of Famer in the UFC, or future Hall of Famer will be, you're doing everything right. He's obviously had success in his pro career so far. Finishes damn near every fight. Minus 175. That's not too bad at all. I do think he gets it done and gets it finished. It's probably minus 200 or so on other books. So, I mean, if you can get on BetOpenly and snag it at minus 175, I think you're doing something right there.
Yes, for Park, he's fairly hittable on the feet. 4.7 strikes absorbed per minute, so he's about a 1-to-1 on his strikes, significant strikes landed and significant strikes absorbed. He got cracked in his fight again on road to the UFC. He looks to take the fight to the ground for the most part, but does get finishes. He's aggressive dude. Once he's on the ground, whether it's ground and pound or for the submissions, that seems to be the play for a lot of these Asian fighters, man. Just get it to the ground and pound. Just be aggressive. 3 KO wins for him, 3 submission wins for Park. For Choi, a lot of hard leg kicks, trips in the clinch, a little bit different for him. He's not really going to look too much for that finish. He kind of wants to steal rounds, and maybe having Zombie in that corner, maybe he's a little bit more conservative for that. But yeah, I mean, two KO wins, 0 submission wins. He's never been finished. 6-1. I gotta go with Hyung Sung Park in this one, just for the finishing ability. He's probably got more past the victory, in my opinion, and just wasn't too impressed with Guk Choi watching him. And if you're gonna beat Sung Park, I think you got to spark him, because he is a little bit wild, a little bit more aggressive. I didn't see that urge for Guk Choi to do that in this fight. So give me Spark.
Yeah, and Guk Choi, I mean, he's going to decision with guys in his past fights that are 1-2, 1-1, 1-0. So I mean, even though he is early on in his pro career, he did have damn near 10 amateur fights, and then fighting guys with 0 professional fights as well, and he's taking them all the way to decision. So like you said, he doesn't really look for those finishes, and I think it could bite him in the ass here. I really do, against a finisher who is solid enough wherever this fight goes. So yeah, I hate looking at his record and see him that he's not finishing these guys that are 1-2 or 0-0. I don't like that at all, and yeah, I just can't get behind him with Korean Zombie in the corner or not here.
Yeah. We'll move on to the women's MMA fight in the flyweight division. Yeong Kim and Mandy Bohm. Yeong Kim, bit of a big favorite in this one. Was on BetOpenly minus 240. So the bookmakers like her. But
for some reason, I don't know.
For some reason, 1-4 in her last 5. Mandy Bohm, not much. Not going to show you much in the fight at all. 0-2 in the UFC. Hasn't won a round in the UFC. She got 27-30 in both of her fights. But for Yeong Kim, man, when was the last time there was a 3-6 fighter in the UFC and she is still minus 230 on the books? I don't know who the hell is getting behind that. Who the hell is betting minus 230 on Yeong Kim?
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. It's Mandy Bohm, but like, how you lay in that kind of chalk on a women's MMA fight that low level,
right?
And she's 3-6 in the UFC. Make it make sense, please.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around it. I mean, just if you compare these girls' UFC records, this might be like the lowest of low level of women's MMA right now in the UFC. But I think it comes from Yeong Kim. If you watch them side by side fighting, I mean, she's obviously the better fighter. She's better stand up. I mean, it's pretty evident she is better. And her losses recently: Jocelyn Edwards, Priscilla Cachoeira, Molly McCann, and Alexa Grasso. So it's not like she's lost to, bums or anything.
Right.
So I think look at all the canceled bouts too. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, in between her losses, she's had canceled bout, loss, canceled bout, loss, canceled bout, loss. I mean, not a lot of things going in her favor on these records. Right. So yeah, I don't know. This is one that if you put your money on this fight, you are a 100% degenerate. You're just looking for action, and you're crossing your fingers, hoping that your side pulls it off. Mandy Bohm, though, 7-2. That record is extremely deceiving, in my opinion. She's not a 7-2 fighter in the UFC. She's 0-2 in the UFC, and she's beating these girls in Bellator that were kind of new to MMA as well. I just don't see her beating Yeong Kim, but at the same time, it's low level women's MMA in the UFC. Anything can happen, but I'm definitely staying away from this fight.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Yeon Kim's losses can't knock her for too much. I mean, Jocelyn Edwards is a 135er, and I believe she weighed in at like 138 or something in that fight. So Yeon Kim's a 125er for sure. The loss to Priscilla Cachoeira. Cachoeira's a big girl. Was going to fight at 135, down to 125 now. Knockout power. I mean, I can't knock her too much for her losses, but at the same time, it's not really like she's showing much in those fights. I mean, she's just throwing a lot of volume, kind of punches the air a lot. I mean, we look at her statistics here. She lands 5.79 significant strikes per minute, but 36% striking accuracy. Like, she throws and punches the air a lot. Maybe that helps her in the eyes of the judges, but it doesn't seem like it because she's losing decisions. So she doesn't really go for it ever. I mean, 2-0, or she has 2 KO wins on her record, 3 submission wins, but she's got 17 fights. So I just can't really get behind it. Mandy Bohm, I want to so badly to take Mandy Bohm at like plus 220, but man, she just really looks terrible. Like, she looks terrible. But I will say this: if you get her up against another striker, I think she could have more success. If we look at her opponents, Victoria Leonardo was, punch, get in the clinch, control time. Or Ariane Lipski is just the all-around better striker. Like, Ariane Lipski would beat Yeon Kim, I believe. But for Mandy Bohm, she got controlled on the ground in that fight too. So Yeon Kim's not going to look to take this fight to the ground. So maybe I'm just talking myself into this to take Mandy Bohm at plus 220. But it's a low-level women's MMA, and this fight's probably going to the decision. So who has been getting the decisions lately? Neither fighter. So that leaves me dog or pass in this one if I'm betting it. I don't know. Maybe I'll talk myself into it, but Yeon Kim ain't winning these decisions. So if it goes to the scorecards, I'm going to want the dog ticket. And maybe I'll be the DGen and take that ticket, but it would take a lot for me to get there. Maybe we'll get there by the end of the week. Maybe see how they look at the weigh-ins or anything like that. But man, it's low-level women's MMA fights like these that just make me be like, how do you not take plus 200 plus on the dog that is going to go to decision? And you never know. Like, you just really never know. It's so
that's a good point. That is a good point. I mean, at this level, if it does go to decision, we've seen terrible judging lately. And who knows? I mean, it could be a close contest too. So you're holding the dog ticket in a close fight like that. I kind of got to like your chances there. So maybe that is the play. Maybe we're overthinking it too much.
Maybe it is, man. I don't know. I wouldn't put too much on it, but like, just to be right about it, enough to just be right about it is about what I would put on it. This one, Jun-Young Park and Dennis Tiululin. Dennis Tiululin coming off the KO win to Jamie Pickett. Shout out to Jamie Pickett, man, getting sacrificed to Bo Nickel. Salute to you, but Dennis Tiululin sacrificed you first. Jun-Young Park, 2 straight wins. Win over Eric Anders and the win over Joseph Holmes via submission. Both fighters in their early 30s. Dennis Tiululin getting up there, almost 35. Who are you liking this one?
Watching Jung Park, he's almost frustrating to watch if you have a ticket against him. Like Eric Anders' fight, super close, could have gone either way. But he just doesn't really do anything. Like, he's got good striking, he's got good grappling, but he's not like overly aggressive on the feet. He's not like overly strong and aggressive with his takedowns. It doesn't seem like. I know he got a submission in his last fight.
Yeah.
But Dennis Tiululin, if you're gonna stand in front of him and strike, he's got power. I know. Has Park ever been knocked out?
Yeah.
Has he?
Gregory Rodriguez.
That's right. So yeah, not really. Like what, a year and a half ago? A little over a year ago? 2 years ago? Gregory Rodriguez obviously hits like a truck, but Dennis Tiululin has very high output, over 6.5 significant strikes landed a minute. Like we saw against Jamie Pickett, he was a better striker in that one for sure. Jamie Pickett's nothing to write home about at all. But also Dennis Tiululin, if I want to say he had decent takedown defense in that fight against Pickett. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, he has decent takedown defense.
Was it 75% or so?
75%, yep.
Which probably would have been all in that Jamie Pickett fights where they're getting the stats for that one. But
no, he fought Kurziev, who's 13-0, fucking beast.
Huh.
But got taken down like once or twice in that fight, and it was over. Got sucked. But
if he can keep this thing on the feet, I think he's got a chance to knock Park out. I mean, he does have 9 knockout wins on his record. Does hit really hard. I mean, you'll hear the announcers talk about his size and power in this division. It is pretty good. So if he can keep it on the feet, he's got a chance. And as a dog, I mean, I hate that style that Park has. It's just boring. Let's just grind out a decision win. I know he got the submission in his last fight, but I mean, against who? So yeah, Dennis Tiululin might be my underdog of the week just because of that power and if he can keep it on the feet. He's definitely going to have the reach advantage too. He's going to be taller. He'll be hard to hit. Park just kind of peppers you with 1-2s, jabs. So if Tiululin can get a hold of him, I think he can win the fight. I like him as a dog. It's going to be my pick.
Yeah, the Iron Turtle, man. I loaded up on him against Joseph Holmes in his last fight, and it paid out for me, but that was more so of a fade to Joseph Holmes, that guy. I don't think that guy is very good, but Jung Park, not a lot of finishes. He's just good all around as it goes. Not a lot of knockout power, and he's not like some spectacular grappler. So I was surprised he even got the sub win in his last time out. Tiululin, brawler, man. He's just going to keep walking towards you, and that could cause him to gas out. So if he doesn't get it done in the first or the second, I could see Jung Park maybe stealing the second round, getting a late finish in the third, or just taking those last 2 rounds. So I think Tiululin probably needs a finish because I just don't see him lasting 3 rounds if he's going to come out and set that pace that he normally does. He needs to stuff the takedowns as well, which he does, or he has in his past couple of fights, 75%, as you said. 9 KO wins for him. He's been subbed 3 times. 4 submission wins for Jung Park, 5 KO wins for him. I don't see him knocking out Dennis unless he just gasses out. But, it could be a late sub for Jung Park or a somewhat early KO. Late first round, early second round for Tiululin. That's how I see this one going. I don't think there's any way I could lay the chalk on Jung Park at this price. I think if you like Jung Park, just wait after the first round and get a better price because Tiululin's going to come out hot. And with Jung Park, he's not really like a dominant wrestler to where he can get you down in the first round and steal the first round. Like, he's just not that type of guy on the ground. So I think you're better off just playing him live after the first. And if you like Tiululin, take that plus money right away. Honestly, it's a pretty juicy price and might get there, honestly. Move on to the first fight of the night, the last fight that we'll be talking about here. Tatsuro Taira. Looks like he's about 15 in that picture. He's going to be 23 when he fights this week. Big favorite in this one, undefeated, taking on Jesus Aguilar. 26 years old for him, so pretty young as well. 8-1 for him. Got the win out of the Dana White Contender Series via submission choke in the third round. He's got a 62.5-inch reach. Taira is going to be having 7.5 inches in reach on him, 3 inches in height. Big underdog here for Aguilar. Do you think there's any chance he pulls it off?
I just don't see it. The UFC matchmakers are good. I mean, they're really good at what they do. And this is a kid they want to push, they want to promote. This could be the next big star out of his region of the world. And the UFC knows that. I don't think they would throw him in there on the South Korean card against a guy they think can beat him. I really don't. And I think that's, they've broke down the stats. They've looked at the film, where each one has their strengths and weaknesses. And that all boils down to Tatsuro Taira being a, minus 1,200, minus 1,300 favorite right now, which is insane. So it's obvious. I mean, you're obviously not going to bet on Tatsuro Taira on the money line either. So right. I just don't even think sprinkling on the dog here is worth the risk. I mean, the reach advantage is big. Reach disadvantage for Aguilar is big. And if it goes to the ground, Tatsuro Taira is obviously talented. We've seen him get submissions. We've seen him finish fights. And again, I don't think the UFC puts him in a position to lose in this one. But I mean, what can you really do with these odds?
Wait, so you're saying Tatsuro Taira minus 1,400 is a bad bet? You think Jesus Aguilar is going to win?
Oh, wait now. TikTok, they're going to come at us for this one.
Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, like you said, are they really going to throw this killer in for Taira? I don't think so. And when I saw his record and saw he has 6 submission wins, I'm like, maybe there's something there with Aguilar, but I think 4 of them are guillotines. So, yeah. I mean, could he go in there and guillotine him? Sure, man. He could, but I wouldn't bet on it. I mean, maybe. What are the odds of Aguilar by sub? Probably just something crazy. They're obviously not out yet, but I bet it pays pretty well. So
I imagine so. Yeah,
like Aguilar, probably take him by sub. That's what I would say, or at least inside the distance. I don't think he's going to win a decision by any means. But Taira probably gets it done by submission. Aguilar, yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of heart. I will say that. He fights like his life depends on it. He throws wild. He's strong. He's a pretty jacked dude. I mean, for 5'4" in the flyweight division, you got to be pretty built, and he is. So, I mean, if he clips Taira with something, it could hurt him. But yeah, no, in this spot, like Taira's the play, but is he really the play? Because you can't really play him at that price. I would imagine him by sub is probably going to be pretty chalky too.
I'd imagine minus 300, minus 400.
Yeah.
I mean, because a guy on the money line minus 1,200, minus 1,300 who gets his wins by submission. So if you're saying that he's going to win the fight at minus 1,300 and he's going to do it, how he usually does it, it's going to be a big number.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think this fight plays out. I mean, early in the fight, you might see Aguilar go for the guillotine and everyone hold their breath for a second. Yeah. And then it goes to the ground, and then Tatsuro Taira is on top, and the next thing you know, he's got the arm bar, and it's over.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly how I think this one's going to go.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe there's value on Taira by KO or something. Maybe he throws the
ground and pound or
flats him out, something like that. But
yeah,
Taira for the pick for sure. All right. If we look from the top of the card down, I got Saragih Spivak, Daeun Jung, Lagoy Ivanov, Ho Choi, Yasaku Kinoshita, Jeka Saragih, Yeong Lee, Rinya Nakamura, Han Sung Park. For the sake of the pick, man, I'm going to take Mandy Bohm. I'm going to just say whatever and take Mandy Bohm. I'm going to go Dennis Tiululin on this one and Tatsuro Taira. So pretty good number of dogs on that one.
Yep. I'm going to be pretty close to you here. I got Sergey Spivak. Daeun Jung, Lahoy Ivanov. I'm going to take Kyle Nelson just out of principle that I cannot get behind a guy with 6 years off and 4 losses in a row. That's the only reason. I'm not basing it off skill. I'm not basing it off anything. I'm fading the guy who hasn't been in there and who hasn't really found a win in a while. So I am going to go Yusaka Kinoshita. I like the striking. Jekka Saragih. I'm going to take Jia Yi. I'm hoping he's going to find a submission somehow and take this thing past the first round. Rinya Nakamura. I'm going to take Young Sung Park. I am going to go with Yeon Kim for the pick. I just don't think she should win. We'll just say that. She should win, but it's not a confident pick. Dennis Tiululin, I think, is going to be my underdog of the week. And then Tatsuro Taira by submission. I'm going to call armbar beginning of the second round.
All right. As always, those are picks, not bets. And they're picks on Sunday. Picks on Saturday will probably be a lot different. So, yeah, if you want those bets for Saturday, double leg premium link will be in the description to purchase that. If you want in on the Facebook group, DM us on Instagram. We can get you in there for free, and you can join the weekly contest that we run every week. That there is a fight card. This should be a really exciting one. As always, or as I said earlier, the prelims start at 10 p.m. Eastern and main card 1 a.m. Eastern. So you're going to be up late if you're in the U.S. If you're over in Asia, enjoy that. And we're gonna feel like, the guys in like Europe every weekend or something, having to deal with some weird timing to watch the UFC. So I'm all good with it. I think that's only fair. And at the double leg on all the social medias, on TikTok and Instagram. And if you're watching here on YouTube, please leave a like, subscription, and a comment down below. At HeyJai Picks on the medias for me. Where can they find you?
TikTok at The Parlay, Instagram at The Parlay_media, and on YouTube you can find me at The Parlay MMA.
All righty. Till then. All right. Till the next video, the double leg signing out.